Okay, so welcome back again. So we were discussing the applications of the first law to control volumes and talking about some devices that are used in many applications. So we discussed about nozzles and diffusers. We'll go on. We'll carry forward that discussion, and today and in this lecture we will talk about turbines and compressors. Turbines and compressors. Yeah, okay, maybe do that. So, turbines, of course, all of you are familiar with turbines, where they are used to generate power, and compressors also you are familiar with. We use compressors for in many applications. Use compressors to heat up a stream of gas or vapor. We also use compressors in in our daily refrigerators that we have in our households. So for turbines, so let us first talk about turbines. So typically a turbine is denoted, is drawn or is shown schematically like this, and there can be this turbine is mounted on a shaft, right, and then there are blades inside the turbine. So there are this kind of blades are there. They don't look like that, but just schematically drawing, there are these kind of blades which are inside the turbine, and what happens is this is typically connected to a generator, okay, but we will not consider that part, and then it can be right. So, in a turbine what happens is you supply hot stream of fluid, hot and high pressure stream of fluid. Typically in a steam turbine you supply a steam at the inlet at a very high pressure and temperature. So this is inlet, and this here you will have some pressure at the inlet and temperature, some Ti, although we do not really directly care about temperature that much, and let us say the outlet is here. So what comes out of the outlet is at the exit, rather this is exit. What comes out of the exit is typically a low pressure and cold steam or a liquid vapor mixture. So this is PE and TE, right. So usually what we see is there is a large drop in pressure. So PE is less than PI. So so what happens inside? So inside, as the high pressure high temperature fluid goes in, it rotates the blades because it is at a very high pressure, and you can also understand that here the enthalpy of the fluid is very high because it is at a high pressure and at a high temperature, right. So this high pressure fluid or stream comes in, and then it rotates the blades, which rotates this shaft. So these blades are connected to the shaft, and the shaft is also rotated in the process. So this shaft will be rotated like this, okay. So and as the fluid rotates the blades, its pressure gradually drops because it has to exert pressure against the blade, exert force against the blade. As a result of that, the pressure the pressure of the fluid drops, and by rotating the blades and by in turn rotating the shaft, the fluid is also doing work in this case, right. So and which is why the fluid that comes in has a much lower pressure, because by rotating the blades its pressure has dropped from a very large value to a relatively smaller value, right. And in the process, throughout this in the process of flowing through this turbine, the fluid has done some work by rotating the shaft, okay. So this, in this case there is a non flow work done very clearly, because this shaft work that the fluid is doing or the fluid is the work that fluid is doing by rotating the shaft, that is definitely not flow work, right. It is not part of flow work. Remember, flow work is just the work done that or the work supply that you need to give to sustain the flow. This is non-flow work. So this is non-flow work, which is why this should be accounted for in the work done by the control volume, in the non-flow work done by the control volume. Okay. Right, and here also we can see that. So first of all, it is steady state. So we will assume steady state, steady. Then we can see that there is one inlet. It is not always true, but there is in this case we will consider one inlet plus one outlet, and we will consider that the turbine to be insulated, which means there is no heat transfer to the turbine. This is usually true. These turbines, they are inside casings, and in these turbines usually are very well insulated from the surroundings. So this is a reasonably good approximation, or reasonably good, I mean this holds reasonably well in real world, right. So you have steady state, one inflow, one inlet plus one outlet, and the rate of heat transfer is 0, but you know that the work output is not 0, right. So by injecting high pressure, high temperature fluid into the turbine, you are getting some work out of the turbine, right. So and this is the work done by the control volume, and this work you can use to generate electricity. Okay. So let us now apply first law. So mass balance, if I apply, so mass balance would look like again m dot I minus m dot E equal to 0, right. This is steady state mass balance. First law, I will again write the entire thing just so that you can get familiar to the first law. So this is q dot minus w dot plus m dot h I plus half v I square plus g z I minus m dot E h E plus half v E square plus g z E equals 0. So again remember that here this is 0, there is no heat transfer to the turbine. This we know that this is larger than 0, because in this case you are getting work output from the control volume. Let me also by the way take this opportunity to tell you that we choose the turbine as the control volume. Okay. So this is the exit, this is the inlet. The turbine you can choose as the control volume. So this red dotted line that I have drawn here, this is the control volume. Okay. So the control volume is giving you work output, because you are because the control volume is rotating the shaft, which is the turbine, which is rotating the shaft and generating electricity. So you are getting work output. So this is more than 0. What usually we find is that again this is negligible. These changes in potential energy can be neglected, okay, because if you look at the property tables, you will see that these enthalpy values typically they will be for in kilojoules per kg, whereas these will be like, so these are in thousands of kilojoules per kg, whereas these values are merely in joules, or maybe they are just a few kilojoules, okay, if the velocity is very large. So these changes in kinetic and potential energy can be safely neglected as compared to the change in enthalpy. So I can write that delta Ke and delta Pe, the kinetic and potential energy changes, these are much smaller than delta enthalpy in a turbine, and this is practically true, because you will, if you can very easily verify this. I mean you can work out, take an example of an industrial turbine. You can get the inlet conditions easily, outlet conditions easily, you know the flow rate. you can plug in all the values and you will see that these terms, this Vi square, Gzi, these terms are usually very small as compared to the enthalpy terms, they dominate these term and that term, the two enthalpy terms dominate. Okay. So, that is why the delta Ke and delta Pe is far smaller as compared to the change in enthalpy. So, then I can also safely neglect these two terms. Okay. Remember that the delta Ke and delta Pe are not absolutely 0, they are non-zero, but it is just that the changes in delta K in the kinetic energy or potential energy is far smaller as compared to the change in the enthalpy. Okay. That is what we have written here. Okay. So, if this is the case, then let us see what happens. So, I can now combine all this. So, from here I can probably write m dot I equal to m dot E equal to m dot. Okay. So, I can then rewrite this first law as m dot times H I minus H E is equal to W, capital W C V, W dot C V. Okay. So, that means what does this tell you? It tells you that there is a drop in the enthalpy of the fluid between exit and the inlet. So, the fluid that is coming out of the turbine has less enthalpy as compared to the inlet fluid, that is expected because here as I said, pressure and temperatures are very high, here pressures and temperatures are typically low, right. So, that means this is large and this is small, and that drop in enthalpy is what has given you the work output, right. So, the fluid does work. How does it do work? Well, it loses enthalpy, right. It loses enthalpy and that loss in enthalpy gets converted into work output in the turbine. Okay. So, sometimes this is also written as per unit mass basis also, although it is a little bit, it can be a little bit misleading. So, I can divide this WCV dot by m dot and I can write Hi minus He is equal to small w Cv dot. Okay. So, this is work output per unit mass, but remember this is unit mass of flow, right. So, this is work output per unit mass of fluid that flows in. Okay. This is not per unit mass of the turbine. Please remember that this, although this is per unit mass, this is not per unit mass of the turbine, this is work done per unit mass of the fluid that is flowing in or flowing out in this case, and these are of course specific enthalpies at the inlet and the outlet, right. So, this is enthalpy of the fluid per unit mass, rather enthalpy per unit mass of the fluid that flows in, okay, at the inlet. This is enthalpy out at the outlet of fluid of unit mass, right. So, this is enthalpy of the at the inlet of fluid per unit flow rate, unit mass of flow rate, okay. Specific enthalpy at the exit and specific enthalpy at the inlet, okay. And this is again work done per unit mass flow rate of the fluid. This is not per unit mass of the entire turbine. This is nowhere in this derivation we have discussed mass of the turbine, it does not matter in this discussion, okay. So, perhaps this is better, this is the total, this is the mass flow rate at the inlet or at the outlet times the specific enthalpies at the inlet and outlet, and this is the total work output from the turbine, okay. Okay. So, let us quickly discuss the compressor also while we are at it. So, this is turbine. For a compressor we have the opposite thing, you just have the opposite thing. So, a compressor will typically have something like this. It need not always look like this, but compressor again it has shafts, okay. So, what a compressor does is it works in the opposite way as that of the turbine, okay. So, you have inlet which is typically at a low pressure and a low temperature, and as this fluid passes through the compressor, it gets compressed. That means the pressure increases and the temperature also increases in the process. So, typically you have P e greater than P I, not typically, always you have the exit pressure larger than, much larger than the inlet pressure. Okay. And you can understand that to do that you have to supply work to the compressor. So, this is, so you some external agent has to rotate this shaft, to which again you might have blades attached, which, if I may draw them, they might look something like this. So, so in the turbine the fluid was rotating the blades and the fluid was rotating the shaft, but in this case, and in the process the fluid was losing pressure and losing enthalpy. In this process what happens is you are supplying work by an external agent. So, typically this is work done by some electric motor which is connected to this shaft, which means you are giving in some work, we give in work input. So, this is WCV again, and remember this is non-flow work, right. This is non-flow work, this is not the work input that you are giving to sustain the flow, this is work input you are giving to rotate the shaft and to compress the fluid. So, this is non-flow work, this is work done on the control volume, where the control volume is simply the compressor itself. Okay. So, I will not tell that from time to time. This red dotted line that I have drawn is the control volume. So, this is work done on the control volume, and what are you achieving by inputting or by injecting work? Well, you are compressing the fluid or raising the pressure of the fluid from a low pressure to a relatively high pressure, okay, by giving in work input. So, this is opposite of turbine. Okay. So, and here also what this, if I go back to the steady state first law and the mass conservation as written here, all of the assumptions that we have taken are remain valid. All of the assumptions that we have taken for compressor for turbine remains valid. So, heat transfer is 0, typically the compressors are well insulated. This for a compressor will be negative, what WCV will be negative for a compressor, because you are giving work input. Again, changes in kinetic and potential energy can be neglected. So, what you are essentially doing is you are giving work input, and that work input is increasing the enthalpy of the fluid, that is what is happening in a compressor. So, for a compressor these two laws exactly remain valid. Only thing you have to remember is that the sign of the work input changes, because now you are giving work input to the control volume, and this is non-flow work, right, this is non-flow work. So, then I can write that, so I can understand that the same formula this same relation remains valid, although the signs are now interchanged, right. So, for a compressor I will write m dot times H e minus H I is equal to W dot C V. I should probably, okay, you know what, I should probably write a minus sign here. Yes, the same law will be valid. This is for a compressor. So, you can realize that W dot C V is negative because there is work input, which means minus of W dot C V will be positive. So, this right hand side is positive, which means the left hand side also has to be positive, which means that H e will have to be larger than H I. So, H e will be larger than H I. So, that tells you what is physically happening. You are supplying work input, and that work input is increasing the enthalpy of the fluid that is flowing in. So, compressors are used to pressurize gases or vapors. Similar principle also applies to pumps, but pumps are much smaller. The reason will be discussed later. You can actually look at examples of how to apply first law to pumps. You will see that the same thing applies, but the context is slightly different, because for pumps the change in internal energy, a change in enthalpy mainly occurs due to change in pressure, right. The temperature in a pump does not change that much, what happens is the pressure raises by a large amount. Okay. For a compressor, typically the pressure and temperature both change considerably, but for both pumps and compressors the same relation applies. Also keep in mind the assumptions again, I will repeat, the assumptions are steady state, steady flow device, one inlet and one outlet, and you are assuming that there is no heat exchange with the surroundings. Okay. These are very important assumptions. Okay. So, this is a compressor.